Real quick, when's the last time you stood in your kitchen at 6 a.m., way too tired to function, and reached for coffee and a granola bar without thinking twice about it? Yeah. Same. Here's the thing. Almost nobody tells you. Everything in that combo already existed 3,000 years before Starbucks, and it's sitting inside verses you've probably heard, read out loud at church 100 times, without ever realizing what you were actually looking at. A shepherd boy's packed lunch fed a hillside of thousands. A collapsing, starving army came back to life, off something dripping out of a tree. A fugitive king's exhausted soldiers drank a homemade recovery drink that's almost chemically identical to the orange sports drink sitting in your fridge right now, except his version grew on a palm tree instead of getting mixed in a lab in 1965. And one of today's 6 was, quite literally, brought back from the dead by scientists a few years ago, grown from a seed older than the Roman Empire. We'll get there. Today we're counting down 6 of these forgotten fuels, from impressive all the way to weight. That's actually insane. Every single one is still sitting on a shelf somewhere near you, usually for under $5. Let's start with the one science only officially confirmed in the last few years, and it might be the most shocking of the 6. Number 1, the nut that broke nutrition science. Let's start with the shocking part. Right up front, out of every tree nut on the planet, almonds, cashews, walnuts, pecans, all of its scientists have only ever confirmed one as a true complete protein, not pretty good for a nut. Complete. All 9 essential amino acids your body needs and can't make on its own, sitting inside one small green shell. Researchers at the University of Illinois confirmed it, and American pistachio growers announced it back in 2020. Roasted pistachios score 81% on the protein digestibility corrected amino acid score, putting them in the same small club as quinoa and soybeans. Almonds don't make that list. Cashews don't make that list. Walnuts don't make that list. Just pistachios. Here's a fun one. While we're on the subject, pistachios are actually in the same botanical family as mangoes and poison ivy, which, honestly, explains a lot about why some people with cashew or mango allergies also react to them. Quick gut check. When's the last time anyone at your family gathering treated a bowl of pistachios like an actual protein source, instead of just that snack that leaves a graveyard of shells on the coffee table by the end of the night? Never, right? It's always filed under party snack, never nutrition. But scripture had already put this nut in the VIP section thousands of years earlier. Genesis chapter 43. There's a famine wrecking the land, and Jacob desperate, sending his sons back into Egypt to beg a powerful stranger for grain. A stranger who is secretly his own son Joseph, though Jacob has no idea, packs a gift bag of the best products of the land to send along. Balm, honey, spices, myrrh, and then 2 nuts get named specifically: pistachios and almonds. Pistachios listed first Genesis 43. Out of every fruit, seed and nut in the entire Old Testament, only 2 ever get called out by name. And pistachios were the one a desperate father chose when he needed to impress the most powerful man in Egypt. There's an old legend that adds even more weight to that royal choice. The story goes that the Queen of Sheba was so taken with pistachios that she declared them a delicacy reserved strictly for royalty and forbade ordinary people from growing their own trees. Legend or not, it tells you exactly how this nut was viewed for thousands of years, not a snack, a status symbol. Ever wonder why this particular tree carried that kind of weight? Pistacia vera belongs to the same family as the terebinth, the tree so common across the Judean hills that an entire valley got named after it. You already know that valley. It's the Valley of Elah, the one where a shepherd boy named David stood across from Goliath with a sling and 5 stones. Here's what's actually inside the shell. In plain numbers, a 1-ounce handful, roughly 49 kernels, which is oddly satisfying to count if you've never tried, gives you 6 grams of complete protein, a solid dose of potassium for muscle and heart function, and enough fiber to keep you full well past 10 a.m. All for about 30 to 40 cents, raw and unsalted. Interesting side note, in Iran, pistachios are nicknamed the smiling nut because the shell naturally splits open as it ripens. Not a bad nickname for something that quietly outperforms every other nut in its category. One rule though, skip anything dyed red or dusted in ranch seasoning. God did not design this one in barbecue flavor. Next up, an entire loaf of bread that's already sitting in a health food store near you right now. And most people walk right past it without realizing it's a word-for-word quote from a prophet under siege. Number 2, the recipe, already sitting in your grocery store. Here's a fact that might make you put your phone down for a second. Walk into the health food aisle or the freezer section of almost any major grocery store in America, and you will find a loaf of bread with a Bible verse printed directly on the packaging. It's called Ezekiel 4:9 bread, made by a company called Food for Life, and it's one of the best-selling sprouted breads in the country. Chances are your church's healthy eating small group has been quietly swearing by it for years without anyone mentioning where the name actually comes from. Let's back up to that verse. Ezekiel chapter 4 verse 9. God tells the prophet, "Take also unto thee wheat and barley and beans and lentils and millet and spelt, and put them in one vessel, and make thee bread of it." 6 ingredients, 4 grains, 2 legumes. And here's the part that should stop you. This wasn't a comfort recipe. It was a sign of judgment. Ezekiel was told to eat this bread in rationed portions while lying on his side for over a year. As a symbol of the siege coming for Israel, this was literally the bread of affliction. Context matters here. Ezekiel wasn't cooking in a comfortable kitchen. He was a priest living in forced exile in Babylon, watching his entire nation get carried away from everything familiar. Their land, their temple, their sense of home. Food was one of the last threads connecting displaced families to what they'd lost. And in the middle of delivering one of the harshest warnings in the whole book, God still handed his prophet a nutritionally complete recipe. Judgment and provision in the same verse, and that's worth sitting with for a second, because here's why it matters scientifically. Wheat, barley, millet, and spelt are all high in the amino acid methionine, but low in lysine. Beans and lentils are the exact opposite, high in lysine, low in methionine. Neither half works alone, but combined in the ratio Ezekiel was told to use, you get every essential amino acid your body needs from one loaf. A review published in the journal Food Science and Nutrition confirmed exactly this. Combining cereals and legumes this way produces a genuinely complete protein. Modern science simply catching up to a recipe dictated 2,600 years earlier. Quick, honest question. When's the last time you dropped $40 on a tub of protein powder and quietly wondered what was actually in it? This recipe was already answering that question for free, long before there was an industry built around selling it back to you in a plastic scoop. There's one more twist most people miss. Sprout the seeds first. Just soak them until tiny tails appear, and something happens that scripture couldn't explain. Then, but nutrition science can now. Sprouting breaks down phytic acid, the compound that normally blocks your body from absorbing minerals like magnesium, iron, and zinc. One review found sprouting can raise protein digestibility in a grain like millet from around 34% to 55%. That's not a small bump. That's the difference between a food your body mostly uses and one it mostly wastes. It's also part of why the modern version of this bread carries a certified low glycemic index. Good news if you've ever had to think carefully about blood sugar. So next time you're standing in the bread aisle wondering if ancient grain bread is just marketing for this one loaf specifically, it isn't. Some is 6 ingredients. Same order. Same verse, printed right on the bag, waiting for someone to actually read it. Coming up, the grain that literally built an army of professional fighters, and also happened to be sitting in a kid's lunch basket the day Jesus fed 5,000 people. Number 3. The grain that built an army, twice. Ready for something wild? Roman gladiators, the guys fighting for their lives in front of packed arenas, were nicknamed hordeari. It literally translates to barley eaters. For a long time, historians assumed that was basically an insult, like they were fed cheap, low-quality grain, because nobody cared whether they lived. Then, in 2014, researchers at the Medical University of Vienna ran isotope analysis on actual gladiator skeletons pulled from a cemetery in Ephesus, Turkey. The results confirmed it. Gladiators ate an overwhelmingly plant-based diet dominated by barley and legumes. And it wasn't neglect, it was strategy. That diet built a layer of subcutaneous fat that acted almost like natural armor, helping protect them from fatal blade wounds in the arena. Today's gym influencers would probably call it bulking season. Back then, it just meant staying alive. One more fight. Now hold that image, because barley shows up in scripture doing something even more dramatic, twice. John chapter 6. A crowd of thousands has followed Jesus out to a hillside, and there's no food anywhere. A boy steps forward with his lunch. 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. Not wheat barley, the cheap grain. The bread nobody wealthy would be caught eating. From that one kid's packed lunch, Jesus fed the entire crowd, with baskets left over. This wasn't even the first time God multiplied barley. Specifically, flip back to 2 Kings chapter 4. And the prophet Elisha performs almost the exact same miracle with 20 barley loaves during a famine, feeding 100 men with food left over. Roman soldiers ate a version of this too. By the way, a daily barley and bean porridge called pulse, eaten by everyone from farmers to legionaries marching across the empire. Wheat was the luxury bread. Barley was what actually kept people moving. And barley shows up again in the story of Ruth, gleaning grain in the fields of Boaz during barley harvest. There's something almost poetic about that detail once you know how her story ends. Ruth wasn't gleaning to get rich. She was a poor widow, surviving one harvest at a time, in a field that happened to belong to a kind man named Boaz. That barley harvest is where their story starts, and it ends with Ruth becoming King David's great-grandmother, an entire royal bloodline traced back to a woman picking up dropped grain in someone else's field. Here's a question worth sitting with. Out of every grain available, why barley every single time? Maybe because barley was already carrying something worth multiplying, long before anyone needed a miracle to prove it. Modern nutrition science backs this up in a very specific, very official way, not influencer talk. Actual federal regulation. Barley is one of only 2 grains, the other being oats, that the FDA has approved for a genuine heart health claim on food packaging, thanks to a fiber called beta-glucan. Under federal regulation, 21 CFR 101, 81, 3 grams a day of beta-glucan from oats or barley is officially recognized as helping lower cholesterol and reduce coronary heart disease risk. The European Food Safety Authority approved a nearly identical claim. That's the same regulatory category as claims linking calcium to bone health. And barley doesn't need a factory to deliver any of it. A simple flatbread barley flour, salt, olive oil, water, pressed flat, and cooked in a pan a few minutes per side, gets you a solid chunk of your daily beta-glucan target in one piece. No yeast, no added sugar, no ingredient list requiring a chemistry degree to decode. So, an honest gut check. When's the last time you picked plain oatmeal or a barley soup over sugary cereal purely because it felt like the boring, healthy option? Turns out the boring option built gladiators, carried Ruth's family line forward, and fed thousands from a kid's lunch. Not bad for the grain. Everybody scrolls past. Up next, something hospitals are now packing directly into surgical wound dressings, discovered completely by accident by a starving soldier on the end of a wooden stick. Number 4. The food hospitals, now put in wound dressings. Here's one that might genuinely surprise you. Hospitals today use honey, an actual FDA-cleared medical device, packed directly into dressings for burns, diabetic ulcers, and wounds that won't close with anything else. This isn't a folk remedy doctors quietly tolerate. It's cleared by the FDA, used in real hospitals on real patients, because compounds naturally present in honey, things like methylglyoxal and hydrogen peroxide production, can fight infections, including some that resist antibiotics. Quick disclaimer, because this matters. That's a specially processed, sterile medical-grade honey, not the jar sitting in your pantry. Please don't put grandma's honey directly on an open wound, but the underlying chemistry that makes it work traces straight back to the same stuff inside every jar of raw honey on Earth. Turns out grandma's instinct to reach for honey whenever anyone got hurt wasn't just superstition. It was just a few centuries ahead of the FDA. Which brings us to a soldier named Jonathan. 1 Samuel, chapter 14. King Saul has placed his entire army under an oath. Nobody eats anything until evening, or they're cursed. Meanwhile, his men are marching and fighting on completely empty stomachs, blood sugar crashing, hands shaking, vision going grey. Jonathan, Saul's own son, never heard the oath. Walking through a forest, he finds wild honey dripping straight out of a comb onto the ground. He dips the end of his staff in it, tastes it, and scripture describes something oddly specific happening next. His eyes brightened. 1 Samuel 14. Arshitsi, that's not poetic flourish. That's an accurate, almost clinical description of what happens when glucose hits a body that's completely run out of fuel. Blurred vision clears. Trembling stops. And it happens fast, because honey's sugar, roughly 80% natural sugar, split mainly between glucose and fructose, needs zero digestion. It goes straight into the bloodstream within minutes. Quick question. Ever wonder how a land flowing with milk and honey, Exodus 3:8, was even physically possible at any real scale? Turns out it wasn't just a poetic metaphor. In 2007, Hebrew University archaeologists, led by Amihai Mazar, uncovered an Iron Age apiary at Tel Rehof in the Jordan Valley. At least 30 cylindrical clay beehives, deliberately built and arranged in organized rows, with some researchers estimating the full operation was even larger. It's the oldest known beekeeping operation ever discovered in the ancient Near East, and researchers estimate an apiary that size could have produced hundreds of kilograms of honey a year. This wasn't one guy with a hive behind his tent. This was industrial-scale production, right around the era of King David, on a scale that could have supplied honey to thousands of people. Not a hobby. An economy. And here's a detail that still holds up. Honey basically never expires. Archaeologists have opened 3,000-year-old sealed jars from Egyptian tombs and found the honey inside still perfectly edible. No refrigeration required. Ever. Try that with your protein bar. Practical version. If you want to actually use this one, a spoonful of raw honey about 15 minutes before something physically demanding, works roughly the same way. It worked for Jonathan. Quick glucose now, a slower fructose release afterward, so you're not crashing an hour later. Stir a spoonful into warm water with a small pinch of salt, and you've basically built a homemade electrolyte drink without anything from a lab. Up next, a food so unfashionable, it's literally what pigs were eating in one of Jesus's most famous parables, and there's a solid chance you've eaten a hidden version of it sometime this week. Number 5. The pig food you've already eaten this month. Quick experiment. Next time you're at the grocery store, flip over a tub of ice cream, a plant-based milk carton, or a block of cream cheese, and actually read the ingredient list. Look for locust bean gum or carob gum. If you eat processed food even occasionally, odds are decent you've already had it. It's a completely legal EU and FDA-recognized thickener labeled E410 in Europe, milled from the seeds of the exact same tree Scripture treats as food for the desperate and the poor. You've probably been eating it for years without ever knowing its backstory. That backstory starts in Luke chapter 15, the parable of the prodigal son. He's broke, starving, far from home, stuck working a job feeding pigs, and he's hungry enough to want to eat what the pigs are eating. Pods in the original Greek, ration, carob pods. This was not a delicacy. This was rock bottom, last resort food. The stuff you eat when you genuinely have nothing left. And yet here's the twist. This pig food happens to be one of the oldest cultivated foods humans have ever relied on. Archaeologists have traced carob use in the region back tens of thousands of years, with charred remains found at Jericho dating back roughly 10,000 years. It survived famines. It fed entire villages when every other crop failed, because the tree needs almost no water and can live for centuries in dry, rocky soil. Most other plants would give up on. There's also a long-standing tradition behind why the carob tree is still nicknamed St. John's bread across the Mediterranean. Today, the idea that the locusts John the Baptist ate in the wilderness, Matthew 3:4, may actually have referred to carob pods rather than the insect. To be fair, most scholars still lean toward literal locusts, but the nickname alone tells you how deeply this tree was tied to wilderness survival in people's minds for centuries. So why did it basically disappear from modern kitchens? Coffee happened. Refined sugar happened. Carob has no caffeine, and none of the bitterness or craving loop chemistry of either one. So when the world got hooked on plants that deliver exactly that, the boring pod quietly providing calcium, iron, and B vitamins with zero stimulant kick got shoved to the back of the health food aisle. It didn't help that it picked up a reputation in the 1970s as a sad, chalky, vaguely chocolate-flavored health food fad, the kind of thing you got tricked into at a relative's house thinking it was a brownie and never quite trusted again. Here's one more thing hiding in plain sight. You already use a word that comes straight from this pod, probably without realizing it. Ancient traders needed a reliable, consistent way to weigh gold and gemstones, and carob seeds were famous for being remarkably uniform in weight from seed to seed. The Greek word for the pod, ration, eventually became the unit carat, the exact same unit jewelers still use today to weigh diamonds and gold. Next time you hear someone describe a ring as 2 carats, that number traces straight back to this tree. Here's the fair way to think about it though. Carob was never actually trying to replace your coffee's jolt. They're not competing on the same mechanism at all. Caffeine blocks a tiredness signal in your brain. Carob just hands your body real calories and minerals to run on. Completely different job. But 2 tablespoons of roasted carob powder steeped in hot water gives you genuine, usable calories, plus calcium and fiber your coffee mug has exactly 0 of, and no 3 p.m. crash waiting on the other side. Next, the drink an entire biblical army used to save their strength. And it's basically the same drink. Hipster coffee shops are now charging you $8 for. Number 6. The original Gatorade, 3,000 years early. In 1965, a team of researchers at the University of Florida mixed water, sugar, salt, and citric acid to help their football team survive brutal Florida heat. They called it Gatorade. Today, it's a multi-billion-dollar global industry with its own aisle at every gas station in America. Here's the slightly humbling part. What they invented in a lab was basically a simplified, synthetic echo of a drink Israel's army had already been making 3,000 years earlier, with better ingredients. For free, no marketing department required. The ancienne version: date honey, a thick syrup pressed from dates, called dibs or silan in Hebrew, stirred into water with a splash of vinegar. 3 ingredients. That's the whole recipe. By the numbers, it holds up surprisingly well against the neon bottle in your fridge. Medjool dates carry roughly 700 milligrams of potassium per 100 grams, well ahead of a standard sports drink, plus real magnesium, which most sports drinks contain essentially none of, and which most Americans are quietly running low on without realizing it. The vinegar isn't a random addition either. Research on acetic acid has shown it can slow the release of sugar into your bloodstream, so the energy arrives steady instead of spiking and crashing an hour later. Modern wellness cafes are now charging $7 or $8 for basically this exact concept, dressed up and rebranded as a shrub or a switchel. Ancient Israel just called it Tuesday. Here's the moment that makes this drink hit differently though. 1 Samuel chapter 30. David's men have just marched 3 brutal days through the desert. Their families have been kidnapped by raiders. Some of them are so broken and furious, they're openly talking about turning on David himself. Along the way, they stumble on an Egyptian servant, abandoned in a field, collapsed. He hasn't had food or water in 3 days and 3 nights. David's men give him bread, a cake of figs, some raisins, water. And scripture describes something remarkable happening next. His spirit came again to him, verse 12. Not he felt a little better. Revived. That servant went on to personally lead David straight to the enemy camp, and David got his people back. That's not a coincidence tucked into an old story. It's the same principle running through everything on this list. Real food, doing exactly what it was designed to do, showing up at the exact moment somebody desperately needed it. And in case you think this tree only belongs to ancient history, in 2005, Israeli researchers actually germinated a 2,000-year-old date seed recovered from the ruins of Masada. They nicknamed the tree Methuselah, after the oldest man in the Bible. It grew. It flowered. By 2015, after being hand-pollinated with a sister tree grown from an equally ancient seed, it produced actual dates, the first fruit from that extinct variety of Judean date palm, in roughly 1,800 years, verified by radiocarbon dating, and published in the journal Science. A food David's men might have eaten, quite literally brought back to life, and it's still growing in the Israeli desert right now. So, one last honest question for you. How many overpriced wellness drinks have you scrolled past this week, with vinegar proudly listed in the ingredients? You can make David's version tonight for less than $1. 2 tablespoons of date syrup, a splash of apple cider vinegar, a glass of water, stir. Ancient Israel didn't need a marketing team, a rebrand, or an $8 price tag to figure this one out. So there they are, 6 fuels that were never actually lost, just forgotten. A nut that's secretly a complete protein, a siege recipe you can buy in a bag at Walmart today, a grain that armored gladiators and fed thousands from one kid's lunch, a wound-healing sweetener hospitals now use in surgery, a pig food quietly hiding in your ice cream, and a homemade sports drink that revived a broken army 3,000 years before Gatorade existed. Here's what's worth sitting with. None of this required a factory, a subscription, or a marketing budget. It required soil, a little patience, and someone willing to actually use what was already provided. Genesis 2:15 says God put the first man in the garden to work it and keep it. Maybe that assignment never actually expired, it just got buried under a supplement aisle. If even one of these 6 genuinely surprised you, do me a favor. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and drop a comment telling me which fact shocked you the most. I read every single one, and if there's someone in your life who needs to hear this today, your mum, your small group, that one friend who's always exhausted, go ahead and send this their way. It might be exactly what they need this week. Thank you so much for watching, all the way to the end. It genuinely means a lot. Now go grab a handful of pistachios, brew something warm, and I'll see you in the next one.